Good afternoon, everyone. I'm VR Small, founder and CEO for the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center. I want to welcome you to the kickoff of Technology Tuesdays in honor of Black History Month. We're super excited to bring back this format. This is our Conquer Your Challenge, CYC, Engage in Expert Series. And this year, we have made a couple of changes that I want to make sure that you're aware of. One, Technology Tuesday will be on the second Tuesday of the second month of every quarter. Managing Mondays will kick off in April on the first Monday of the first month of every quarter. And next month, we will kick off Women Warriors Winning the Business Battle, hopefully on site at our new facility on the third Wednesday, which will always be the third Wednesday of each month. Also, new this year, we are bringing back an oldie but goodie, and that is Breakfast with a Banker. It's also kicking off during Black History Month with Chase at their community center in Oak Cliff. It's 7:30 in the morning. Come early to connect, collaborate, and learn about the amazing business products and military products offered by Chase Bank. Last but not least, going into March, Breakfast with a Banker will be hosted by PNC. And as we shared with you before, we are taking our programming on the road and coming to a location near you. PNC's program will be in Farmer Branch, and more information will be shared soon. Also, you can join us to end Black History Month on February 28th for our Tuesday at 9, Next Level Business Time. And that will feature Lori Sells from Civility MS. So Lori is a phenomenal person. She's huge in federal contracting, and she has been speaking around the nation. One of our female veteran entrepreneurs that is really setting the pace and taking her business to the next level. So we're excited for you to hear and learn about her journey. So as you can see, our new facility will be opening soon. More information to come, but we're hoping that March will be open house month so you can come and learn about our programming and what we'll be doing. This year, 2023, is the 75th anniversary of the Women's Armed Service Integration Act. And that is the date that Women's Veterans Day is on, which is June 12th. So mark your calendar now. We will be celebrating that entire weekend, this phenomenal bill, this act that opened the doors for women to serve in the military as official members, to be paid, to no longer be volunteers. And there's so much history there that we're going to begin to share with you from now up until June and really the whole year. And last but not least, mark your calendar for our national conference in October. We will be having our pitch platform, which is kicking off with cash prizes starting at $50K. First prize is at $25K, second prize is at $15K, and third prize is at $10K. Remember, this is our national pitch platform, so women across the nation are invited to get involved, and applications will open as soon as we finish our Women's Veterans Day pitch competition on June 12th. So watch our platform, get connected on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, or Twitter. All of it is VWEC, is Veteran Women's Enterprise Center, SEC, at Veteran Women's Enterprise Center, SEC. And you can also do a hashtag VWEC and you will find us. We're awesome glad to be back in 2023 with our partners from Capital Asset Technology. And so I'm going to turn it over to Bill to introduce himself, the program, and our guest speaker for today. Bill?
Hi, VR. So first off, let me start with, I'll do introductions in a second, but let me start with, did you happen to see speaking of women in the armed services, did you see at the Super Bowl that the entire crew of the 4-person or the 4-jet flyover at the Super Bowl was all female flight crews?
So absolutely, and it was Navy, and it's posted on our LinkedIn. We're super proud of those.
Go Navy! Go Navy!
Absolutely,
go Navy! All right, so with that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Bill Huang. I'm with Capital Asset Technology, a division of Capital Asset Advisors, and we help businesses enable technology. Basically, is the short version. So I'm going to start by I'm going to start by sharing my screen and going through a brief presentation. Excuse me while I'm looking over here and doing this. But while I do that, let me just say that anybody on the attendees, any of the attendees that want this deck, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be happy to send it to you.
Also, while Bill is getting that ready, I want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for taking time out of this special day to join us. Remember, you can put your questions in the Q&A, or you can also put them into the chat. I will be monitoring that, and we will be answering those questions accordingly. But please, this is your time to engage an expert. So we encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A and or the chat.
Okay, can everybody see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so before I get going, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about the details here, but we are Capital Asset Technology, and we specialize in technology optimization. We can accelerate IT, whatever IT means to you. And the important thing to keep in mind here is that IT means something different to every business. You know, if you're a very small business, it might mean one thing. If you're a larger company, it means something else. And so we're able to work and engage at many different levels and complexities for different businesses. Let's see here. So we have an extensive portfolio of suppliers that we use to deliver our services. And I'll get into that in just a second here. So technology is a top 3 spend for any organization. I'm going to talk about this in a bit, but I think it's becoming obvious, at least to me, that there's no such thing as a non-technology company these days. I think back in the day when I was younger, you could definitely say you're a technology company or you're not a technology company. And now I don't think any business has that luxury. I think if you're not using technology to drive results, you're probably making a mistake. So we offer different levels to help companies from anywhere from just basic. I need to go buy a communication system to helping you solve the problem and figure out what's right and all that. I'm not doing a good job here. Just one second. Let's see. So we are supplier agnostic. We don't have a set group of vendors that we prefer and bring into every engagement. We look at the problem in front of us, or the let me say that differently. We look at the situation for the given company, and we do our best to pick the right solutions to solve that particular problem. In other words, we don't have a predefined playbook that we bring into a company. We can help in these different areas, cloud, managed services, unified communications, Internet of Things, networking and SD-WAN, managed security, and devices. And so this is a brief logo slide that shows some of the bigger firms that we work with. And let's see here. So this is an important slide in that we can offer 3 different levels of service. We can level 1 and level 2. It's important to note that those 2 are at no additional cost to the company. That is basically covered by the vendors for what you actually end up purchasing. So level 3 would be a consulting engagement where we would go in and do a deeper dive, and maybe it could involve custom software, maybe it could involve a lot of other things, but that's definitely, we can handle basically any situation. Let's put it that way. Okay. I'm going to get down to this. So, and again, there's a lot. All right. So the main topic that I want to talk about today is digital transformation. First of all, as I said, there's no such thing as a non-technology business. But let's talk about digital transformation in general, which is that I think that term it's really popular in the industry these days, but I think it's a bit of a misnomer because it implies that, there's something wrong with what you're doing now. And I don't mean to imply that. I just mean that I mean to use that term to imply that there's always someplace to go that's better than where you are. So let's look at it as you can always improve. Um, I think it's becoming quite clear, excuse me, that the cloud is the great equalizer. Cloud technology enables you to take advantage of services at a very economical price that are extremely scalable. That, like for example, back in the day, I used to run a phone system that we paid $150,000 for, and I had to have somebody on my team to run this phone system, and it was very complicated, and I had to develop my own expertise in my IT department to run this phone service. Now, you can literally just pay a fixed price per seat, and you have that available to you wherever you're doing business. Um, Technology, to use the military term, is a huge force multiplier. It can make everything you do more effective. Um, the best advice I would give towards digital transformation is don't piecemeal it. Try to be systematic and think it through as a holistic whole of your company, rather than I'm going to go buy this system here and this system there and that system there from 3 different vendors, and pretty soon you take one set of problems and convert them into another. And so I think it's very good to be systematic about how you approach this. In my mind, I am always trying to drive companies towards a systematic, repeatable process. And this is especially important when you're talking about multiple locations. Many of our customers have 15, 20 locations, and the unifying theme across these engagements is we want to be able to, if you will, stamp out a location without a bunch of thought. We want the same capabilities for each location, so to speak. Um, Use SWOT analysis to identify the targets for technology enhancement. And for those that don't know, SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when you think about your business from those perspectives, it's it usually leads to an effective analysis as to what needs to be done. Um, this is a huge one. Meet your customers where they want to be. As a business that survived COVID, you definitely need to deal with customers in the channel they want to communicate with. Sorry, I didn't say that well. You want to communicate with your customers through the channel that they want to use. If that's Instagram, it's Instagram. If it's phone, it's phone. If it's email, it's email. If it's text, etc. And then finally, reach out to me individually, and I'm happy to help you solve some specific problems or work through whatever your personal situation is. A couple of quick definitions of terms that might come up. UCaaS is Unified Communications as a Service, and CCaaS is Call Center as a Service. And that's the end of my show. So with that, I want you to introduce, I'm going to say it wrong, Onyeka Taylor Shakur. Onyeka, my yes. Apologies. Onyeka is with Five9, a communications firm, and she's got a lot to talk about in the specifics of Call Center as a Service. And let me stop sharing. There you
go. Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here to share with you the wonders of CCaaS and how it can have a positive impact on your organization. So first, I'll give you a little bit of background about me. I've worked in technology for 30 years. I know I started working when I was 2. Don't worry, child labor laws didn't exist back then. But I have worked my way up in this industry from answering phones to running the rampant enablement for solutions consultants at Five9. My passion through the years, what I found my passion is being able to help people navigate the path, people and organizations navigate the path from where they are today to where they want to be. And I use technology to do that. I've sold CRM, and the 2 major applications I sold were CRM and CCaaS, and both of them are applications that can really transform the way you interact with your customers, regardless of size, regardless a little bit of budget, because people tend to think that these applications are not worth the investment, and they truly are. So you're probably thinking, that's Five9 is a pretty funny name for an organization. It is what our goal is for service. We want to make sure that when your customers call, that your lines are ready and that your agents are available. So I'm going to show you a little video so that you can understand who Five9 is. Then I'll come back and tell you how many years you've been in business and all that good stuff. But I want you to understand the technology that we bring to bear before we have this little chat. So I'm going to share my screen.
Move customers effortlessly across channels and between virtual and live agents without requiring callers to repeat themselves. Customers usually begin with a digital self-service experience that may include chatting with a virtual agent. If needed, the virtual agent can cleanly transfer the customer to a live expert to complete the transaction. To further streamline communications, use Five9 to send proactive notifications to your customer's preferred device. And when demand peaks, whether you are expecting it or not, your digital agents are there to deliver intuitive, human-like experiences that produce real results when your customers need you the most. Experiences become even more fluid when you make them multimodal, augmenting voice interactions with visual content to provide a better level of service.
Can I check the status of my claim?
I can help with that. Please speak your passphrase.
My voice is my passphrase.
I see that your claim was successfully submitted. If you want, I can help you schedule an inspection.
By scaling dynamically with live and virtual agents, Five9 helps you maximize your resources and deliver the best possible service to your customers.
Onyeka, you're muted.
I
we can't
muted
hear
because
you.
I didn't want to have an echo. So I apologize for that. But that goes over basically what Five9 brings to the table. And you're probably thinking, maybe that's more than I need today. And that's okay, because you want to partner with a vendor who can grow with you. Mm-hmm. Whether you're only taking inbound calls today or you're an outbound shop, your business will grow and mature, and you want that bridge that I talked about. That I consider myself a builder and a farmer. I help you to build the vision to get from where you are today to where you want to be using technology. And instead of having to tear that bridge down every time you grow, you should be able to extend that bridge to your next goal. And having a partner who can do just that, who can turn on and turn off objects in their suite of applications, is what you want, right? Because then you don't have the cost of changing vendors in the middle of business. So you can start off with an inbound or an outbound experience where your agents are empowered. I believe that empowered agents, so agents who can take a call, understand who they're talking to, understand the history that you have with that customer, creates a sticky agent, someone who's going to stay with you, someone who's going to long-term deliver great service. And if they are delivering great service, they are creating positive customer experiences, therefore happier customers. So the tool Five9 can integrate with applications within your ecosystem to empower your agents with information that they need to be able to create positive experiences.
So
I use this.
Sorry. Can you talk? Can you talk a little bit more about the integrations? Like what kind of common integrations do you deal with?
Yes. So customer relationship management applications is one of the big things that we integrate with, and We, of course, can integrate with all of the big guys, Salesforce, Dynamics, but we can also integrate with your homegrown solution. So if you have an application that you built with all of your customer information and it has open APIs, Five9 can actually screen pop that information. So as I'm calling into your call center, you get Onyeka Shakur is calling. She has called X number of times in the last couple of days. She's a happy customer. She's an upset customer. All of the information. I call it being able to put your finger on the pulse of who you're talking to. You can also integrate with a UCaaS solution because your agents may take calls that need to be escalated to people who are not a part of your call center. So maybe they need to speak with billing. Being able to resolve a problem on the first interaction makes a happier customer. No customer wants to call you back. You really just want to get through with it. But you can integrate basically with any application that has an open API, whether it's CRM, UCaaS, your ERP, whatever you need, because whatever, even a knowledge base, right? Because you want to empower your agents. The more information they have, the happier they're going to be in their job, because no one wants to get questions that they can't answer, right? And if they can, if it's easily available to them, it makes them a much better experience for your agent. And
Yeah,
when you can do that, I'm sorry.
That makes total sense. So can we talk real briefly? And I'm resisting the urge to go software geek on you right now and go deep into the guts of how the integration will work, because that's kind of my thing. But so presumably a customer would engage with you guys and say, all right, we have an integration with a custom system, and I mean, can you give me some idea as to the complexity that's involved with that? In terms of would that mean you guys assign a developer to it, or how does that integration, how would that actually work a little bit?
I'll give you a taste. It can be as simple as using one of the Five9 connectors to integrate with your CRM solution. And that is built into the system where we can just build using, I shouldn't say build, it's configure, because it's not a developer, right? It's someone that we train to be an administrator to your system that can use a connector to call out and then present to your agents the information that you need. Now, if you have a very complex system and you need some special things, we can, do it the hard way, but we prefer to do it the easy way so that you can manage it on your own.
So okay, last question on this topic. So I imagine that configuring this connector is basically you would put the URL into my API and say, I want you to call this endpoint to the API to get this information up, and then it'll come back as some format that Five9 can digest and then screen pop it. Am I thinking about that right?
Right.
Okay.
So we can use an iframe in a script to present that UI to the agent so that they have a single pane of glass experience when they're interacting with your customers. Now, if you use one of the, we'll use CRM here for this example, that we integrate with natively, we actually have an adapter that sits inside of Salesforce, Dynamics, ServiceNow, and a few others, where again, you create that single pane of glass experience for your agents. And for years, about a dozen years, I sold productivity solutions, and having that single pane of glass increases productivity by about 40%. Because the moment that you go from one application to the other, you lose concentration, you lose where you were with the customer, which is very noticeable when you're talking to someone.
Well, not the least of which is I'm sorry, Mr. Wong, would you mind holding while I go look up your record and all that fun stuff?
Right. And then you have to go through that process. Sorry.
Right.
No, so this is a great time to jump in because both of you guys are in the technology field. I'd love it if you can backtrack and just do some terminology. I've heard UP, UIP, CRM, and the reality is, mom and pop and one woman shows, they don't know all of the terminology, and that's okay. But we want to make sure they get it so they can say, oh yeah, I need that. Oh, that's exactly what she's talking about. So we'll talk about what some of those acronyms are and then how these different smaller organizations can really enhance their customer experience by using these technologies effectively.
Yes. So it is an alphabet soup. It is truly an alphabet soup. So CRM is customer relationship management. So I think applications like Salesforce, who I talk to on a regular basis, and being able to memorialize those interactions in a place where you can always, you'll hear me say this a lot, put your finger on the pulse of your relationship with them. ERP, enterprise, application to manage your enterprise. So all of the financials.
Enterprise resource planning. ERP is enterprise. So as a small,
it blanked out for a minute.
Real quick story. So my first job out of college was in the defense business, and you want to talk about alphabet soup. Well, you got, VR knows, former military. So I learned like the third day on the job that if anybody uses an acronym, I was going to ask them what it meant. And they knew probably within 2 weeks not to use an acronym if they didn't know what it was, because the next question was, "What does that mean?" And I told you VR was a good moderator. So good way to keep us on track, VR.
I don't think we mentioned anything else. We unified communications.
API is the open API concept. It stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's basically a way to integrate applications that are not designed together. So it's a way that Onyeka's application can talk to my application, not having to know anything about each other, and exchange data and make it look like one seamless, to her point earlier, one pane of glass, one experience.
And Bill, I want to speak to that right now because I've already gotten 2 emails. There's some issue, and I want this in our YouTube so that those people that did sign up know that we are aware. There's some issue with the link. So I've already gotten 2 texts and 1 email that they're not being able to connect with the link, and I've sent the link over to some individuals, but that's the exact issue right there. Eventbrite and Zoom are supposed to have this connection, this API where they can talk to each other, and it seems like a seamless relationship, but clearly their API doesn't always work correctly because there is no seamless relationship here for us today. But that's just an example for those of you listening, a very simplistic example of how that API concept will work. So if you think of platforms and software that you have that you say, oh, I wish these 2 work together, because the information I need really needs to be combined. I don't need it in 2 separate pools or 2 separate pockets. That's what the API concept would do for you. And I think there was one other one that you mentioned besides the CRM. I think most of them know what a customer relationship management system is, from MailChimp to Salesforce and HubSpot and some of the other ones. But there was one other acronym that you used, and I think a good example might be helpful too. I think it was UPI. Was it API? It was something else that we talked about.
You just defined API. I'm trying to think anything else that I mentioned. I have notes here.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but before we go on, I want to make a point here that this is, as a software guy, I'll speak on behalf of all software developers that it is extremely complicated. I don't care what you're doing in software, it's really complicated. And the job of the developer is to effectively make it look easy to the user. And, integration is a huge deal. And the real point I want to make is that if you store data in more than one place, one of them is guaranteed to be wrong. And so you definitely want to keep it as unified as you can. And obviously there are real world constraints to this, but this is the rule that I've always tried to live by when I've been writing software. So I'll stop pontificating about software, but go ahead.
No, we have a really nice cross section of business owners, from the very small to the multi-million-dollar, like our IT firm that we spoke to early this morning with our Tuesday at 9. And so let's talk a little bit about what this looks like cost-wise for the different companies as they're coming into the process. So if I'm very small, but I want to give that feel of having, a really good customer service team for my clients, opposed to the person who's enterprise and they have several people, but they want those people to be more unified in the way that they communicate, and they want a better grasp on how many times a customer has had to call in order to get a situation resolved. And I know that the software we talked about can record those calls and give us all that data of what has been that customer's experience with the particular company.
So I'll be honest with you, I generally don't talk about price-specific things because that's not my role. My role is the technical end of the sale. But I can tell you that we work with customers who have as few as 5 agents who answer calls. So that's a smaller business, and actually that is a very large portion of our business because it is a plug and play application in that wherever your agents are, as long as they have internet and a computer, they can take calls. So it's a simple stand up of an application, regardless of size of an organization. Of course, you can make it as complex as it needs to be. We have some organizations who have tens of thousands of agents on Five9, but we still love our customers with 5 agents because we know that we can make an impact on their business. And
sorry, let me jump in real quick and just say that concept you just laid out right here should not be glossed over. Okay. The ability to create a call center that's geographically distributed across the country because of software is a force multiplier for any business, because now you can hire representatives from anywhere in the country. So that I just want to make sure everybody gets that.
And I noticed you use the terminology of computers. So can they work this from their phone or a tablet?
So go ahead, Bill.
No, I was just going to say, VR, you are on mute for most of that question.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you use the terminology computer, if they can access a computer. And I just wanted to confirm if they could use the software from a phone or a tablet.
So we have applications, partners that allow agents to work from their phone, if that's what you would like. We also have an app for supervisors. But generally, agents will take the call from their computer, just from a real estate perspective. It makes it a little bit easier, but they can take it from their phone. We have a partner that opens up that line for us. So Bill, I'm sorry, were you going to say something, VR? I'm just walking all over you. So I wanted to mention what you said, Bill, from a use case perspective. When you said you can have an agent anywhere, one of my customers was located in a state that is impacted by weather, hurricanes every year. And when we were talking to them, they had an on-premise solution, and those people had to be co-located. This was pre-COVID, mind you. They had to be co-located in one space to take calls. And if they weren't there, then those calls didn't get answered. Right. This is a mission critical part of the city. And one of the things that we talked about during the sales process was, hey, if you have a weather incident, you can send your agents north. They can go to grandma's house in Ohio, and they can take the calls and still answer the phone like they're sitting in the call center, as long as grandma has internet and they take their computer. That changed the game for them because, as we've seen over the last few years in states like Florida, weather has become a big deal. And when their city was impacted by weather, a lot of those agents were able to go north and still answer the calls for the citizens who were impacted. So it doesn't matter where you are. Like you could be in Atlanta and your agents could be sitting in Michigan.
That's right.
But they're going to answer the phone like they're co-located, and they'll be able to access supervisors and information using the integrations as if they were in the office. So when people make that transition, it's very easy.
Sorry, the larger point here is that the workflow doesn't change. Their job does not have to, they don't have to readapt to some new, hybrid stopgap type solution. They just do their job, at grandma's house, to your point. And, this is the thing this is the only time I ever had outages as a CIO, which is ICE in Dallas. When Dallas ices up, the world ceases, except for the guys with the big pickup trucks, and then they get stuck in a ditch. And so, it's like, I mean, we would have to close the office down, and to the point I talked about earlier, we had this phone system that was in the house, in the building, and it's useless outside of the building. So, this is a huge gain in terms of capability. And one of the customers that we're working with is a small law firm that is completely built virtually. They don't have an office. And so they're using technology like this to, more UCaaS than CCaaS. But, they're building a virtualized company without an office on purpose. And it's really cool. I think that's one of the great things that has come out of COVID, which is the whole paradigm has been kind of broken. And now we can rethink what it means to work somewhere.
I think that's interesting what you just said, Bill. We're working with a law firm.
VR, you're on mute. Yep.
No, I'm not on mute.
You are now. You weren't now,
you.
but you were. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's interesting what you said about the law firm, because we have a law firm that we're working with that has the exact same situation. Everybody kind of works from home. A couple of people may get co-working space when they need to actually meet with a client or to dispose somebody, but they are basically working in a virtual platform and using all of these different tools to engage with each other without actually having to be in an office space. And I was wondering, so I have two questions for you. How much of a shift did you all see during the whole COVID period? And you mentioned about, 5 employees, but can this program work for someone who's super small, less than 5 employees? And is it like an affordable tool, or do they really kind of need to look at like a soft phone and then move to kind of this customer service platform concept?
So I'll take COVID first. COVID was a game changer in that I think a lot of people just weren't, quote unquote, ready to make the transition from on-premise to a cloud solution for their call center solution. And COVID created the requirement to be able to do that. And I think a lot of organizations during that transition realized that there was a greater level of flexibility that came with having a call center in the cloud, whether it's building campaigns, flexibility with campaigns, scaling up and down, right? Seasonality. Today's Valentine's Day. There are flower companies that need more agents today than they need on December 1st. And with a call center in the cloud solution, specifically Five9, you can do that. You can scale with seasonality. So a lot of the flexibility that organizations did not have with an on-premise solution was offered to them during COVID, and they took advantage of that. And it was a really, honestly, as a solutions consultant who was going out and talking to organizations who needed to ramp during COVID, it felt good to be able to help organizations get to where they needed to be. And I'll just share an example. Right before COVID hit, I sold a very large retail deal. They were all co-located. I went to the go live. We were all sitting in a little room. And I happened to run into him at our CX Summit last year, which is our customer summit, where we come and we share new things, and customers actually share with each other the things that they have learned. I apologize for the doorbell. The mailman's here. But he told me that they were able to seamlessly go virtual, and they don't have that office anymore. Once COVID hit, they sent everyone home. They gave them computers, and they were able to continue to work. And just as another nugget from this particular customer, they would have a very high peak season, and they would lose calls every season. There would be call outages and drops. They have not lost a call since then. They haven't had a major outage during their high peak season since they moved to Five9. So it really gave a different level of flexibility.
Well, and I think this goes to the point I was driving at earlier about cloud being the great equalizer. Okay, as a small business with, say, 5 representatives, you have the ability to scale right now on demand. And you can also downscale, to your point, Onyeka. And also the idea that the customer you were just talking about who was able to eliminate a physical space. So, if you got that many reps, yes, there's a cost associated with the software solution, but there's also what cost associated with having a physical location. What's all the headaches associated with a physical location, which these people were able to replace through a software solution that's now much more flexible and much more scalable to their changing needs, I would say. So I think this is, I hesitate to say it this way, but it's almost a no-brainer that you would, do something like this. So that was my point.
Well, I'm always trying to think outside of the box, and you think about businesses that are very small, even less than that 5-person concept, but they do a lot of the same things. Are there opportunities to collaborate on a platform like this where, hey, if I can't get that person, then you can get that person, and then we take care of referrals and we just make sure no one gets dropped in this process because we do a lot of the same thing. So we're using this platform to collaborate. Have you seen, or is something like that feasible?
When you say collaborate, do you mean between businesses or collaborate internally?
Collaborating between businesses, because everything we do is like the business owner. And what I'm noting here is that we've got the big boys covered, but we do know that we have a lot of one-woman shows where people are still kind of getting off the ground, getting their revenues going, looking to bring on that first person. In fact, our Managing Money concept all this year is about business workforce development. How do we help you get that first person on and really grow your team, not just talk about it, but strategies to help you move in that direction. So again, I'm looking at that much smaller group and saying, is something like this actually affordable? Are there ways for them to collaborate with other people that might be in the same industry that they're in on a platform like this to provide even stronger customer services or customer referrals? I didn't answer, so you got it. But we didn't miss the customer. They didn't end up in somebody else's loop. And I'm just thinking outside the box. And maybe it's not feasible, maybe it is, but I think it's worth a conversation.
So to share resources, so you just using this as an example, larger companies use what they call a BPO, and these agents take calls from different organizations. They could share agents and have those agents come in on have those calls come in on different campaigns. If they're smaller, they would have different phone numbers as well. So and then reporting would be separate, and you could transfer across those shared agents. It would take coordination, and it would, the businesses should probably be linked in some way, but definitely, there's an opportunity to share agent resources for a smaller organization. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit it in terms of complexities and theoretically you could, if you're a one-person shop and you're trying to get your first employee on board, you could pool that and do one deal with a CCaaS provider. But the complexities, I would say, at that level, I would say you'd be much better off focusing on a UCaaS type solution to start with, because you don't have a call center anyway. And then as you build the business up, call center becomes more important. And I think right. Since you're in the business, Onyeka, why don't you define the difference between CCaaS and UCaaS? Why don't you, if you would, offer that? And remember that CCaaS is call center as a service, and UCaaS is unified communications as a service.
So we'll start with CCaaS. CCaaS is when you have a call center that's taking higher volume of calls with a large group of people, or a group of humans or virtual agents taking interactions, whether it's voice or digital. UCaaS, remember back in the day, the phone that sat on your desk with all the buttons? UCaaS is that, but in the cloud, allowing you to communicate to internally from, I'm going to make an internal call to someone, or I'm going to make an external call, or the call center is going to send me a call from that came in that they can't handle. So there are just two different doors that people enter to interact with your company. It's, at the lady who used to answer, I shouldn't say lady or man, who used to answer your phone, at the front desk would use a UCaaS solution, whereas the call center would use a CCaaS solution. So just think of it as one-to-many or a one-to-one interactions that you're looking to field.
And I think, this makes me think about what I was talking about a minute ago about digital transformation and how does a smaller business get started with a digital transformation, given that we don't really love that term, let's call it that since that's what everybody else calls it. But so how do you get started? So what we've seen at Capital Asset Technology is the idea that generally it starts around the foundational type technologies. And the way I look at the world, the foundational technology is bandwidth. You don't do anything without bandwidth. Okay. There is no internet without bandwidth. So you got to make sure you've got a solid bandwidth solution. Make sure you've got enough bandwidth coming into your locations, wherever they are, be that your home, be that, your office, whatever. And I will say, small plug, I'm not going to mention the vendor, but small plug, I've got fiber to my doorstep and I pay dearly for it. But I've been working out of this office at my house since 2014, and it is literally the best money I've ever spent. I never wait for the internet. I can download video. I could literally be watching a video while I'm streaming all this stuff and not have any hiccups. It's a huge deal. Bandwidth cannot be overstated. And then secondly, I would say that the next technology would be either UCaaS or CCaaS, depending on your needs. And then from there, the sky's the limit. And if you look back at that slide deck that I showed, the different silos that I had, there's all those different kinds of things that are available to deal with your SWOT analysis. When you identify, okay, this is a strength. Okay, great. We don't need to pile on that, but I've got a weakness here. And this is the part where I would say, Onyeka, why don't you talk a little bit more about what your experience has been in terms of meeting customers where they want to be, on the channel they want to be on. I want to talk to you via chatbot or text or whatever. Why don't you talk about that for a bit?
So I'll start that part of this chat with an example. I am an old lady and I like to pick up the phone and talk to people.
No, you're not.
I had to change my flight recently. I know the number to said airline by heart. ... Calling you up. The wait was 45 minutes. I am not the Super Bowl commercial. I'm not interested in dancing to your hold music. So they offered me the opportunity to text with someone. Fine. I was able to change my flight. Initially, I was speaking with a bot. I knew I was speaking with a bot because I work in CCaaS.
Because you know these things.
Right. I was like, I gave this bot all of the information that they could potentially need, but they keep asking me question by question because they're going through a process. Fine. Once that bot had all of the information that it needed, it sent me to a human who was able to, with context and everything that they needed to field that interaction, started communicating with me. They were probably communicating with 2 or 3 other customers at the same time. They were able to solve my problem seamlessly, even with a few hiccups, like, the app not working and all of that, sent me a link to pay, and I went on my merry way.
Yeah.
And
That
about
is an
how long did that
example.
take you? It wasn't 45 minutes, right?
I was done in 20 minutes. So the time that I was on hold, I would have been doing nothing, but I was able to finish that interaction in 20 minutes and go on about my day. That is exactly the experience that you want to be able to present to your customers. And your customer, regardless of which channel they choose to connect with you on, if they land on your website and they start chatting, and maybe they're chatting with a bot and asking the bot all these questions, because of course now with AI, they can ask almost anything. Then when it gets to a point where they need to interact with a human, the bot can automatically, or by request, escalate to a human or to a phone call. So for me, it's always meet your customer on the channel of their choosing at the time of their choosing. You're probably thinking we're not a 24/7 shop. Bots work 24/7. They don't take breaks. So when you're ready, right, you may not need a bot today, but when your business has grown to the point where you're like, I need to be able to field interactions at all times, you know, I want to follow the sun with this, that's an option. I think it's important to note that the interaction, regardless of channel, when you are moving from either agent to agent or supervisor or bot, is context, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you are an agent transferring to another agent, you are able to do a warm transfer, share all the information, right? But if you are an agent transferring a text communication, whether it's SMS, chat, or email, you want to still be able to provide context. And what 5.9 does is it allows the receiving agent to look over the interaction so that the customer doesn't have to repeat themselves. No one wants to do that. So it's really about not just meeting your customer where on what channel they want to communicate with you on, but making it seamless.
Yeah,
when you have to transition.
I think that is a huge deal that cannot be overstated, and that is directly related to software. You know, the ability to send that context along and not have to ask all the same questions again. You know, that, I mean, you think about it from a resource perspective for the company. You know, I mean, that's just time. You know, if one rep gets all the information and the next time, you know, oh, I can't help you, and then the next one has to ask you all the same questions. Well, that's a waste of company resources. And it also, of course, is annoying to customers. Exactly. And, you know, I don't know any business that ever grew effectively by annoying their customers. So, you know, yeah.
Onyeka, we've had some questions from some of our clients in healthcare around security on all these different platforms, because it does, you know, record the information, it'll drop information to you. Are there any platforms or any issues that our clients in healthcare should be aware of that they need to comply with when they're using these different platforms to engage with their clients?
So 5.9 is very focused on compliance. We're PCI compliant. We are HIPAA compliant. I'll make sure to provide you with our compliance page so that you can look over it. We work with a lot of healthcare organizations and hospitals because those organizations have to communicate on every channel, right? Whether you use MyChart and you want to change your appointment, or you get an appointment reminder, right? All of those interactions can go through 5.9, and not just from a PCI, PPI, HIPAA compliance perspective, but we also provide compliance related to when you reach out to your customers, how frequently you reach out to your customers, because those are potential high dollar violations. So if you call someone after 9 o'clock, I'll use this as an example. I'm one of those people who confuse telemarketers and salespeople because my phone number is in the Pacific time zone. I live in the Eastern time zone. So you can call me at 9 o'clock Pacific time, but that's midnight my time and a violation. And that violation is very expensive. But we can build into campaigns that look at both of those things. I'm sorry, Bill, you were going to say something?
I was just going to reemphasize the point you just made, which is this is a fantastic point, which frankly I've never considered, because I've not run these kind of operations. But I mean, that in and of itself, my experience, I did have experience with HIPAA, and HIPAA was about, we were looking at it from the perspective of, what data got out, and like, did you send a fax to the wrong place and stuff, stuff like that. But I had never even considered the whole time zone thing. And, I have a little experience in other areas with time zones, and they're an absolute nightmare from a programmer's perspective. Time zones are a nightmare. They really are. Anyway, that was a great point. Thanks for making that one.
And we're into about 5 minutes, and I just want to reiterate that the Q&A is open. If you can't work the Q&A, you can drop your question in chat. And we do want to apologize for what we know is some confusion with the link between Eventbrite and Zoom, but we will be uploading this to our YouTube and pushing it out, so you will be able to gain the information. And again, Capital Asset Technologies is our partner. They are our link to all of these different providers. They provide you a white glove service. So you tell them what you want, and they begin to identify the people that can provide it for you. So you will also be able to reach out to them. And as Bill said earlier in his presentation, if you would like the deck, you can also request a copy of the deck with all of their information, just so you'll have a more formative background on the services that they provide. So I did want to make that statement again. And then I want to bring it back to Bill and Onyeka just to see if you guys have some final comments, some things you think our businesses really need to think about when they think about these platforms, and what's going to be right for them.
I'll go first and let Onyeka have the last word. And mine is really simple, which is hear what I said earlier in the presentation, which is there's no such thing as a company that's not a technology company. You know, I don't care if technology scares you as a business owner, or if you feel intimidated by it or whatever. You know, I urge you, if that's the case, get over it, because technology is the force multiplier. It is absolutely game changing, all these cloud technologies, and it's a really exciting time, you know, with the emergence of the cloud and what that means. And I just can't overstate it. I really can't state it enough or strongly enough that you know, reach out to me individually, reach out to Capital Asset Technology. I'm happy to have a conversation about specifics. You know, but it's really exciting. So don't let technology freak you out. Okay. It's not, it's really powerful and it's really great. And I know I'm making an assumption by saying, don't let it freak you out, but I know many people are freaked out by technology. So it's okay. Anyway.
Bill, I want to go ahead and say, please put your contact information in the Q&A. You have one question, how can they reach you? And then I just want to share for everyone that Capital Asset Technology, they're our go-through. So these are their partners. And so as we reach out to their partners, we reach out to them through Capital Asset Technology. So once you have their information, you have everybody's information. Onyeka?
So I'm going to say that basically the same thing Bill said. Technology is your friend. It will help you to grow and get better. Embrace it. Yes, it's overwhelming, but that's why you have partners. I think of everything that I've sold. I'm not just a vendor, I'm a partner. My goal is to help you to get to where you want to be. And if you can, you know, if you share with me your goals and your requirements, I can help to build a bridge from where you are to where you want to be. And I do that with technology. And again, it's your friend. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it.
Okay, I want to remind everybody, for those of you who will catch us on Zoom, on YouTube, actually, one, we are going to be doing these once a quarter. This is called CYC, Conquer Your Challenges by Engaging an Expert. This is a place you want to be. As Onyeka mentioned, when we were talking about pricing, she said, well, that's not really what I do. I'm the expert on the technology side. So if you have questions about how these platforms work, how they merge together, how it might be beneficial to your business, this is the place to pose those questions. We may see those questions on Facebook or even on YouTube, but it may take a while before somebody can get back to you with an answer. So you want to be on the platform. Our next platform is going to be in May. We will be announcing our presenters soon, but this is all about connecting you to the technology that you need to grow your business, to automate, to provide that presence and customer experience that is really going to change or be a change maker for your business. So we invite you again as we're closing this out, and I hope that you listen all the way through. Technology Tuesday will return again in May, the second Tuesday of May. We'll have another exciting provider for you. If you have questions, reach out to our partners at Capital Asset Technology. And Bill, do you want to just kind of articulate how they can reach you?
Yeah, I was going to do that, and it was on the last slide of my presentation, and somehow that got botched. But all right, so our website is capitalassettech.com, and you can reach me directly at bill@capitalassetadvisors.net. And feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to have individual conversations about your technology needs with any of you. So feel free to reach out.
I want to thank Bill and Onyeka for a very informative conversation. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Valentine's Day to kick off Technology Tuesdays for 2023 and also doing Black History Month. We're so awesome to see our women in tech so that they know that women in tech are still leading. They are some of the top providers. Onyeka is a senior representative with Five9. And so we are movers and shakers, and we are really thrilled during Black History Month to be able to highlight some of the movers and shakers and best in industry. So thank you again for your time. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Onyeka. Everyone, continue to enjoy your Valentine's Day, and we will see you again in May.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.